Start just by focusing on being present and coming together for a moment. Whether you're listening to this live or going to watch a recording later, it's so important to bring yourself into this space. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, just sit for a moment and close your eyes and just tell yourself to be present, to hold space for yourself, to hold space for your body as it feels right now, and feel that calm, peaceful breath as it flows in and out. To hold space for the energy of your whole body and the harmony that exists within you, with every beat of your heart, aligned with the flow of your breath, and how everything inside of you is working as it should at this moment. Bringing your mind and your body together, holding space for yourself, and then inviting in the people in your life, and energetically sending out that energy of harmony and love and compassion. And for just a moment, as you breathe in and out, let that energy spread out across the globe to those who may be suffering, for those who may be struggling under stress, for those who don't know what's coming next. Let them connect to the light and the harmony that exists within all of us, and send out the energy of healing. And just breathe for a moment. And now open your eyes and feel that presence. That's setting a container, that's holding space. And that's what this session is really going to be all about. To lift that energy up and be positive and energetic. So I teach holding space a lot. And those of you who have been through our programs, those of you who've studied with us in different ways, whether it's sound healing or yoga nidra or mindfulness or meditation or whatever it is, the lesson of holding space is always there, but there's so many different ways we can look about it. So I wanted to revisit it, especially in this time where everything seems off. Not everything, but so many things in the world and so many people just seem off. Coming out of the couple years of the pandemic and the things that are happening in the world right now, it's so important to revisit this topic of holding space and maybe recenter ourselves on it. And with the way I also teach mindfulness is, in addition to holding space, we have to be intentional, right? We have to turn off the autopilot and choose to live a life of intention. So in this session, I want to talk about those two things together. How we hold space, but we have to set intention first. So when we talk about holding space, we have to understand that holding space, in essence, is all about making a connection and developing a relationship with the people who are coming into our space. Whether it's a group session or an individual session, as soon as they walk into our space, if we're holding space for them, they can feel that. So our role in our relationship as we're working in our practice, whether it's Reiki or massage or coaching or sound healing or nidra, whatever it is to see ourselves as a space holder. And everybody who walks into our space is connecting to us in a relationship way. So first off, to hold a relationship of holding space is we need to be intentional. And that intention starts the minute we go into that space. So the way I like to see it is, as soon as we decide to hold a session, as soon as we schedule somebody to come into a session with us or a group, we have to see ourselves as holding space and creating this container in which certain experiences are going to be held. And I make sure to remember that each and every person who comes into my space is holding their own energy and bringing their own presence into that space. So I need to make sure I'm truly grounded in the energy with which I'm putting out. So as a space holder, it starts with us being present, and it starts with us setting intention. Because as we bring ourselves energetically, intentionally into a space, we should know that we're holding energy and presence, and that energy and presence that we're holding is going to influence all of the experiences in that space. Even if people don't even know that's why they're there, your energy is going to influence them in some way or another. So if our intention is to hold space for others so that they can have some kind of experience in that space, and we have a strong intention, and we put that strong intention out, then that space is going to be formed around that intention, and that's going to shape that container. Does that make sense? So the presence and energy that we put out gives shape to the containers that others are going to walk into. And that helps us develop a unique experience with those people who are coming into our space. That unique relationship is formed between us and those we're holding space for. Even before we say anything, we're starting to build that relationship within that container energetically. So think of a held space as an intentionally created energetic container or cocoon, if you will. And we wrap our clients in that energy. And it can be one person or 50 people or 1,000 people, or it could be the whole world. When we energetically build that cocoon, we can see that we're generating an energetic signature that when we ground ourselves in it and we allow ourselves to fully be present in it, it can be powerful enough to infuse any space so that they can resonate with the energy that they need at that moment. So the intention of how we hold space really matters. So that held space is formed when the person, us, has the intention or desire to be a companion for others. We have to let go of the need or the want for the situation to go a certain way. We have to let go of the expectation of an outcome of aligning with what we expect it to be, to hold space for others to accompany them in whatever experience they are having or that they need to have, because we don't know. Even when I've been working with clients for months and months and months, I don't know exactly what that client might need at that moment. And so many people tell you one thing, but deep down inside, there's more. And we start peeling back the layers of us. So the intention with which we hold space isn't to fix a person, and I don't even think it's there to help a person resolve their problems or issues. It's to be there, to be that container so that they can discover and they can form that companion relationship with this person who is the healer. As we put out that energy that comes from our heart space, the energy that we all align with, we know in the practice of sound healing that resonance means that if I put out the energy of my heart, if I put out that F note that resonates with my heart chakra, every other F note in that room is going to align with it. And if it's strong and powerful, it can lift everybody else's heart into alignment with it. That's what our practice is all about. And maybe for just a moment, that person who's in that space of suffering feels you holding that energy, and it gives them a moment of relief. It gives them a moment of letting go. It gives them a moment of trigger their body to let go of the stress and the anxiety that they've been carrying so that they can trigger the stress recovery response within themselves. But I have to let go of the need for that to happen in a certain way. So the intention with which we hold somebody isn't about fixing or even helping. It's simply being there as a companion. So where we create that space and attend to whatever is arising within our clients in their own space without needing something to happen a certain way. So a true held space can be a healing space. A true held space can be a loving space. A true held space can be a compassionate space or a nurturing space or simply a peaceful space. A true space of holding and healing should be seen as a space of great potentiality. Because if I put a need or a desire for a certain outcome when I'm holding that space, doesn't it take away people's potential? Because if I'm saying it has to happen this way or it's going to go this way, then I'm trying to fit them into this frame or lead them on this path that might not be the path that they hold or the path that they need. So I'm taking away the potential of that held space to perhaps show my client a different path. So it should be a space of true potentiality. And the way I love to see it, and that we talk about it quite often, is to really allow our clients to connect to the creativity that they have within. So we have to help them relax. We have to help them feel your presence. We have to help them let go of the stress, because with stress, we turn off the creative parts of the mind. When we're under stress, we're always in that flight or fight response. We can't see the forest through the trees. So we have to be there to hold space to allow them to find that creativity And as we know, as we are a school of mindfulness, a space we hold should always be a learning space to discover what comes up and perhaps explore that, to discover what comes up and accept that it's there, and then determine what, if anything, we're going to do with that. But we don't put that on our clients. We hold space and maybe we ask questions. But whatever the intention is when we're holding space, we can see that as that intention aligns with our clients, they discover their own intention in that space. But it's all about the energy that we're putting out. Again, this cocoon isn't about me, it's about us as a community. So, what a held space isn't, it's not a directed space. It's not a space where our agenda or our needs or our wants for ourselves or for other people come into it. If our agenda is anything other than intention, other than the intention to hold space in a loving and compassionate and healing and open-minded and accepting way, then we're no longer holding space. We're putting our stuff into that space, and we're putting our energy and our ego into that space. So a held space is responsive to the needs of those in the space, not the person holding space, but those who come into the space. And this is where the space holder becomes more discerning of those person's needs energetically. I can feel that energy and I can feel myself being pulled in this way or that way. But energetically, I try to keep my energy in that space of love and compassion and learning and discerning and discovering so that it keeps lifting people up. Instead of me being pulled down into their space, I hold them in my space. So, for example, if the person we're holding space for is grieving the loss of somebody, then it helps for us to recognize that this person is suffering from that loss of that loved one, right? But as we discover in that space of grief, people need different things at different times. So if I have this desire for the outcome to be a certain way because I know this person is suffering in a space of grief, and I try to put that outcome on them and say, I'm going to help them move into a space of acceptance. What if they're not ready to move into a space of acceptance? What if they're still in the anger space or the denial space or all those other spaces that people are in that space of grief? So for me as a space holder, I should put out the energy of love and compassion and understanding and learning and discerning instead of holding space for somebody with a desire for the outcome to be different. In a space of holding, when I'm working with somebody who might be in that space of grief, maybe I should just hold space so they can express their pain and sorrow without being judged, without being asked to close it down. Just be there and hold their hand and say, I see you. I see you. How much does people need that? So I think as space holders, we become almost artists of discernment. We need to learn and discover and recognize that every single time I sit with a client or I hold a class, I'm going to discover something new. I'm going to discover about people's energy or about their needs or about their wants, but I'm also going to discover more about myself and recognize those moments when I try to put my stuff on them. And remember, it's not about me, it's about them. One other way I love to look at holding space is to see this container as a space of spaciousness, of openness. It's not just this cup, it's like this ocean of energy, and all these different currents are going to come into it. So it feels like, and it should feel like, a place that anything can happen if it's allowed. So we allow anything to happen. Just breathe into that space and just let things come. It's a place that is free from judgment because a holding space doesn't judge. A healer would never judge. We simply hold space without putting anything on it. The space that we hold has no need for anything to happen, but yet there's a recognition that anything can happen. So that's such a refreshing perspective on it. Nothing has to happen, but anything can happen. And whatever happens needs to be trusted. That what comes up is coming up for a reason, and we shouldn't judge it and say that shouldn't come up now because this is what we should be focusing on. So for whatever reason, we need to allow it to happen and then explore it and awaken that curiosity. Why? To be an effective space holder, we have to work on and cultivate the quality of spaciousness. It's not just about my physical body, it's about the energy that I'm putting out into the space. And so if I'm holding space in my studio, I fill that space with my energy. If I'm holding space in an auditorium, I fill that space with my energy. We have to understand that our energy is so powerful that we can fill any space. We can fill the world with it if we put it out. If we open ourselves up and we build and become more comfortable and more confident in our ability to hold space for others, we have to trust that when we allow people to come into our space, that we understand that we have our own stuff, warts and all. We have our own stuff, our emotions, our pain, our struggle, and our suffering. We have to be open-minded and open-hearted so that people feel safe with us because they understand we're beings just like them. I'm not some special guru. I'm not the authority, just another person holding space for those people, perhaps to find something. We have to be trusting and we have to build that relationship so that we don't shut down what should happen based on our needs of what we want to happen. Whether it's pretty or not, we need to let things come up. And in a sound bath, in a yoga nidra session, in a guided meditation, in a one-on-one coaching session, the things that come up aren't always going to be pretty. Sometimes it's going to be painful. Sometimes it's going to be what we would define as negative. But just because something comes up doesn't mean it's bad. Just because a pain comes up, just because suffering comes up, maybe it needs to come up so we can find resolution with it. So as space holders, we hold space for the good, the bad, and the in-between, understanding that we all have these different things going on. And whether we understand it or not, it's not for us to understand. So one of the most important things that I've always focused on when I'm working with others is to release my agenda. And so many clients come to a coach or a practitioner wanting the agenda to be, what are we going to get out of this? What should I do in this session, right? But if I release the agenda, it's a difficult thing because as we hold space as healers, our agenda might come from a place of care. It truly does come from a place of our heart, but it's ineffective when we put our stuff on it. So agendas get in the way because they're born from our wants. They're born from our needs. They're born from us telling ourselves we know what this person needs to get to the next level or to transform. But do we at any point in our life really know what somebody else needs? So if we're talking about holding space for a specific need, maybe transformation, because we're transformative coaches, right? Everything we do is about transformation, and we expect that everything is always changing. But in transformation, the process of growth has to come from within. It can't come from me. It has to come from my client. So I need to let go of holding sway over the person that I'm working with and not be dominant in the outcome. Let go of the distortions and understand that so many things are going to come to light if we simply hold space and let things come up and discover where our clients want to go. But with practice, as people become more and more comfortable with us, as they listen and they feel the energy that we're holding, and they accept the spaciousness that is in that space you're holding, those questions that they can start to ask themselves may start to come up. The question that says, who am I? When we allow our clients to go into that space of discovery, they can let go of those limiting beliefs and the stuff that's been put on them by others and say, who am I truly? We can ask a question, or they can ask themselves a question. Is who I have believed myself to be who I truly am? Or is what I've been taught about myself really true? We can lead our clients into that place where perhaps we can ask them, what is it you truly value in your life? What brings you passion? What warms your heart? What makes you feel good? And then we can ask them to recognize those things as the values in their life. Let the answers come up without putting that stuff on them. But we can ask those questions And then we can ask those questions, are you living in alignment with those values? And what can you do to shift your life that way? So we ask the questions without putting the answers on. But in transformation, what we're doing when we hold space is perhaps we're allowing our clients to connect to their true self. As we hold space, they start connecting to that authentic vibration. And if we hold space without putting our stuff on our clients, they can slowly start to strip away the limiting beliefs and the negative messages that they've been carrying in those moments we're holding space for them. And so many people go into that space of discovery without having to know what the outcome's going to be, but we can help them slowly start to strip away that darkness and the negative energy that's been blocking their authenticity. That true transformation begins to happen by simply holding space. When I question myself, who am I recognize when I ask that question how many self doubts come in, how many limiting beliefs start to pop up, how many messages that I heard through all those years from all those people who told me who I should be and who I am not. But I recognize now, as I hold space for myself, that's a them thing. That's not a me thing. And I can listen to my heart and start to discover the truth. So, how can I do that for others when I can't do that for myself? Well, it starts right here. We have to do it for ourselves. To truly be great space holders, we have to hold space for ourselves first. We have to open up that discovery. We have to be curious about ourselves. We have to let things come up instead of dismissing them. If we hold space with the intent to be a healing space, with the intent to allow things to come up, what happens is we start to open up different levels of consciousness so that the space becomes greater and the reality of our clients themselves becomes greater. I've seen it so many times that people start to discovering there is a higher consciousness beyond the ego and beyond those limiting beliefs. And see, since each level of consciousness is different within everybody else and their inherent reality is different at different times, I can't put those limiting beliefs and those outcomes that I would like to put on them. I just have to let things develop, as I hold space for others. So when we hold space for others and understand that the consciousness is constantly shifting, but our goal is to move our clients into a space of authenticity, into a space of harmony. But there I just put my stuff on them, right? Yeah, it's so difficult to move into that space where I'm not putting my stuff on. All those layers of that old ego, all those layers of me wanting to control the outcome are difficult to recognize. That self-concept that naturally comes in when I'm working with somebody, that naturally wants to arise, and I want to show them the way and say, I know what you need, just listen to me. That's the most difficult thing to start letting go of. But a great coach, a great healer needs to really practice letting go of that and understand that as people heal, they begin to connect to a bigger reality. They begin to remember and recognize the truth of their being. As people become more aligned with the harmonious being and the authentic vibration that exists within themselves, they begin to know themselves as they are. And perhaps for the first time in their life, they start to see themselves as whole and complete. They start to see themselves as the perfect version of themselves. And they need to find their way through those questions that start to arise. Their experience of themselves becomes altogether more real and true, but it can also be scary and unnerving because suddenly they're walking and discovering they're on the wrong path, or they've been listening to the messages that aren't who they are. What do we do with that? So it really is making sure that we're simply putting out the right frequency. The frequency is what's important, right? When I talk about resonating with people and how I'm holding space for them, I love this video that we show in the sound healing class that talks about serendipity and how once we align with our authentic vibration, those serendipitous moments in our life start to show up more and more. That we think about somebody and all of a sudden they message us or they send us an email, or we think about something and it starts showing up in our life more, right? not based on the algorithms of Facebook or Instagram, those things that we think about something we want to buy and all of a sudden it shows up there. I don't think that's serendipity. I think that's somebody tapping into my brain. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. Those serendipitous moments start to show up. But that means that we're tuned into the right radio station, right? The right frequency. So us as space holders, we want to be that broadcaster, that radio station that's putting out the message of healing or compassion or love or whatever it is, or all those things put together, and we want to help our clients move into that space, and help's the wrong word, but allow our clients to start tuning in to that station, right? Remember the old days where you had to turn the knob, and if you didn't get the station just right, it would have a lot of static. Well, they might be in that static space, but we want to, the stronger we become at space holders, the stronger our signal becomes, and almost our signal becomes digital. Once they tune into it, it locks on, right? So what is the message that I'm putting out? What's the frequency? What is my radio station tuned to? As a healer, it's tuned to all those things we do as healers: love, compassion, faith, gratitude, joy, acceptance, forgiveness, all that stuff that comes from the heart. So, this is my broadcast station, and I want my heart space to be stronger and stronger and stronger so that those people who are out there looking for that station can tune into it. And in that space, if I start putting my ego into it, all of a sudden it gets staticky because that's a me thing. I'm holding space for people to find and to tune into the station that they need to tune into. What we're doing when we're holding space for that people that way, and they start tuning into their own heart, and they start listening to the answer here, they start to see themselves in a whole new way. Or perhaps they start to move out of that space of expectation or busyness or stress or anxiety. If we come into our space tired, if we hold space when we're down or angry or frustrated or doubting or skeptical or unsure, and we all experience those things in our life, then that's what people are going to tune into. We can feel it when we walk into a room, when people don't have the right energy. So the space we hold, we have to know, is going to vary over and over and over again. But when we get better and better at holding space for others, we can let go of all that other stuff, and we tune back into our station, and we start broadcasting from that space. So it's all about working to get into that space of tuning into our station and using that over and over and over again. And understanding the frequency that put out, the frequency that we tune into, people will start to resonate with. So the most powerful space we can hold is connecting to that consciousness of love. Love is everything. Love is the foundation of healers. Love is what we do in Reiki and sound and coaching and everything we do from a place of love. And when we understand that truth, it's that one space in which we can be that space holder of a loving presence. I am a loving presence. And that those words, I know the ego gets in the way and it sounds wonky and soft and squishy, but you know what? It's the most powerful thing we can do. Put out the energy of love, because people heal when they're in the presence of love, naturally and organically. When people open themselves up to what love has to offer, they start tuning into it. And we understand that love has no need for people to be a certain way. Love has no need for something to be connected to a certain outcome. Love has no desire to be recognized as great or better than or more effective. Love is love. And when we tune into that, we understand how simple it is. And it's in this, in this space of love, that all things are possible. So it's that one thing that we should come to recognize as the truth of who we are as space holders. That recognition that is the essential reality of who we are as healers. Because transformation begins to strip away all those things that don't belong in that space of love, all those messages and limiting beliefs and all that trauma and all the stuff we've been carrying with us begins to fall away. When we move into that space of love, it invites all who enter to partake in a journey of remembrance, to witness what's happening in their life, to see that life changes and we can reorient ourselves and refocus ourselves and recommit ourselves to live a life of love and compassion and gratitude and joy. And when we hold space in that space of transformation, we're holding space that has the highest of potential. And that's why I say holding space and aligning with potentiality. That's not dismissing everything else. but understanding in that space of love, there is so much potential. And then life starts to flourish. There is no greater gift that we can give in the world than to hold space for our clients, for ourselves, and for the people in our life. And when we become more and more connected with it, we see that it is a true art form. And this way, when we start holding space more and more from that space of love, we can start to see how it will impact the world around us. And we can start inviting more and more people to hold space this way, to come from that space of love and say that the way I hold space is different than the way you hold space and the way you hold space. But you know what? It all is the same station. We're just playing a different tune. But the tunes and all the messages are the messages of love. So that's that message. That's what it's all about. That's how I see holding space now. And my concept of holding space is constantly changing. But that's what I've been working on myself, because I caught myself a couple months ago teaching that workshop on holding space, and I was just going through the routine of reading that message that I've been putting out for a while. I said, you know what? I need to refocus on this. And I need to realign it with what truly I've been focusing on myself, and understanding that every message connects to the power of love. Whether I'm talking about holding space or setting boundaries or resonance or entrainment or sound healing, or it comes from that space of love. And then I'm holding space. And people connect with that. People want to tune into that. What's that song? What the world needs now is love, sweet love, right? So let's be that. That's my message for today. It's a good one, I think. Thank you. So, anybody got anything to add? Thank you. I'm going to stop recording now.